blues fans, welcome. It's time for another episode of This Week in the Blues, our weekly look at blues history. I'm your host, Jimbo Big Train Madsen with Big Train and the Locomotives. We have a really cool episode this week, so let's take a look at what happened this week in blues history. Delta blues legend Bukka White was born November 12th in 1906 in Houston, Mississippi. He was a first cousin of B.B. King's mother. At the age of 14, he went with an uncle to Clarksdale, Mississippi, using his guitar playing as a way to attract women. Okay, he wasn't the first and far from the last teenager who took up the guitar for that very reason. Anyway, in Clarksdale, White came in contact with Delta blues legend Charlie Patton, who no doubt was able to give him instruction on both endeavors. In addition to music, White pursued careers in sport, playing in the Negro Baseball League and taking up boxing. New Orleans blues singer Blue Lou Barker was born November 13th in 1913. She often sang and performed with her husband, guitarist Danny Barker, who was a regular of the New Orleans music scene. Blue Lou Barker's recording of A Little Bird Told Me was released by Capitol Records and reached the Billboard chart on December 18th in 1948 and lasted 14 weeks on the chart, peaking at number 4. Barker was inducted into the Louisiana Blues Hall of Fame in 1997, 1 year before she died in New Orleans at the age of 84. Guitarist Bobby Manuel was born November 13th, 1945. He was hired by Stax Records in the late 1960s as an engineer and also quickly began doing studio work as a guitarist, becoming one of the company's most dependable and often used session players. Manuel's credits include playing with some of the blues and soul's most iconic figures, including Albert King, Rufus Thomas, Luther Ingram, and Isaac Hayes. Blues guitarist John Hammond was born November 13th, 1942. Hammond usually plays acoustically, choosing National Resophonic guitars. In 1963, he became one of the first white artists to record a blues album. He is also the only person who ever had both Eric Clapton and Jimi Hendrix in his band at the same time. Yes, you heard that right. Albeit for not very long. It lasted 5 days. In 1966, when Hammond played the Gaslight Cafe in New York City, they both sat in with him for that gig. To his regret, and to ours, he never recorded them together. Here's an alliteration for you. The very versatile vocalist Valerie Wellington was born November 14th, 1959. She was a singer who, in her short career, switched from singing opera to singing Chicago blues. On her 1984 album, $1 Million Secret, she worked with Sunnyland Slim, Billy Branch, and Magic Slim. She was trained as an opera singer and graduated from the American Conservatory of Music. But in 1982, she took up singing the blues in Chicago clubs. Blues guitarist Anson Funderburg was born November 14th, 1954 in Plano, Texas. He started Anson Funderburg and the Rockets in 1977. That incorporates both Chicago blues and Texas blues. Their first album was released in 1981, and they continued to tour and perform at blues festivals. In 1985, Funderburg invited the blues harmonica player Sam Myers from Jackson, Mississippi to join. He stayed with the band until his death in 2006, appearing on 8 albums with them. And if you haven't heard them, go out and check them out. It's a great mix. It's a great sound. Blues harp player Carrie Bell was born November 14th, 1936. While most often known for his harmonica playing in the Chicago area, he also played bass. Bell played harmonica and bass guitar for other blues musicians from the late 1950s to the early 1970s before embarking on a solo career. Besides his own albums, he recorded as an accompanist or duo artist with Earl Hooker, Robert Nighthawk, Lowell Fulson, Eddie Taylor, Louisiana Red, and Jimmy Dawkins, and was a frequent partner with his son, the guitarist Lurie Bell. Chicago blues guitar legend Hubert Sumlin was born November 16th in 1931. Sumlin was born in Greenwood, Mississippi, and raised in Hughes, Arkansas. He got his first guitar when he was 8 years old. As a longtime member of Howlin' Wolf's band, Sumlin created some of the most iconic blues riffs we know today. Hubert Sumlin was inducted into the Blues Foundation Hall of Fame in 2008, was nominated for 4 Grammy Awards, and won multiple Blues Music Awards. He was ranked number 43 in Rolling Stone's 100 Greatest Guitarists of All Time. The father of the blues, William Christopher Handy, who you know as W.C. Handy, was born November 16th back in 1873. W.C. Handy was one of the most influential songwriters in the United States at the time. In 1903, while waiting for a train in Tutwiler in the Mississippi Delta, Handy overheard a black man playing a steel guitar using a knife as a slide. Handy was the first to publish music in the blues form, taking Delta blues from a regional music style with a limited audience to a new level of popularity. And if you want to go visit where that interaction happened, go to Tutwiler, Mississippi. They still have the foundation of the train station, they still have the tracks, it's all still there, and you can stand in the same spot where that happened. It's pretty cool. We go from the father of the blues to the godfather of Austin blues, W.C. Clark, who was born November 16th in 1939. Clark was born and raised in Austin, Texas, where he sang gospel music in the choir as a young boy. In the early 1950s, at the age of 14, he first learned the guitar and then later experimented with blues and jazz on the bass guitar. In the late 70s, Clark played in an Austin blues quintet named Triple Threat Review with Luann Barton and Stevie Ray Vaughan. Louisiana native and Cajun blues guitar maestro Tab Benoit was born November 17th in 1967. A guitar player since his teenage years, Benoit appeared at the Blue Box, a music club and cultural center in Baton Rouge run by guitarist Tabby Thomas. Playing alongside Thomas, Raffle Neal, Henry Gray, and other high-profile regulars at the club, Benoit learned the blues firsthand from a faculty of living blues legends. Blues singer and guitarist L.F. Jack Owens was born November 17th in 1904 in Bentonia, Mississippi. While very young, Owens learned to play the fife, the fiddle, and the piano, but his chosen instrument was the guitar. Owens really didn't seek to become a professional recording artist. He farmed, he sold bootleg liquor, and he ran a weekend juke joint for most of his life. Owens' first record was Going Up the Country in 1966. Well, blues fans, we just covered some of the highlights here. If you want to know more about these artists or other things that happened this week in the blues, be sure to follow our social media pages or visit our website at bigtrainblues.com. We'll have a new episode next week, so we'll see you then.